Everybody knew a moon mission was a supremely dangerous undertaking. Still, few foresaw astronauts actually dying on the launch pad during a dress rehearsal, no less, just feet away from desperate technicians helpless to save them. On Friday, January 27, 1967, three astronauts, Virgil Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee, entered Apollo's maiden craft designated AS-204 to conduct a pre-flight test. As test conductors were about ready to pick up the count, ground instruments showed an unexplained rise in the oxygen flow into the spacesuits. About 6 seconds later, the frantic voice of Ed White came over the intercom. A fire in the cockpit.
They were inside a spacecraft in pure oxygen. That's a recipe for disaster. All they needed was a spark, and unfortunately they got one.
From a piece of exposed, uninsulated wiring. Why couldn't they get out?
The hatch was on the inside, pressing outward against the hull. So to remove the hatch, you had to pull it in, turn it, and then slide it through the door. When the fire started, you got 50,000 pounds pressure holding that door in place.
All three men were dead.
We lived near the wife of one of the crew members, Pat White.
Bill Anders had the unenviable task of breaking the news to the wife of Edward White.
That was a pretty tough deal. When I stopped in front of the house, she saw me coming, and even though she had not heard, I could just tell by the look on her face that she knew something was wrong.
The three were given heroes' funerals, and in their honor, mission AS-204 was redesignated Apollo 1. It could well have been the last Apollo.
That put the Apollo program on hold. Frank Borman became very instrumental in reviewing the whole issue.
NASA essentially investigated itself, so that kept the outside people who had not the slightest idea what was going on at a bay. I think that that was one of the hallmarks, really, of the confidence that the public had in NASA at that time. We were able to get a team together and point out the failures and fix it.
Borman's testimony to Congress helped convince the government and the public that though there would always be risks, NASA could learn from its mistakes and the Apollo program should go ahead. Paradoxically, the launch pad disaster may have allowed NASA to get to the moon faster than scheduled.
We had an opportunity to learn from that mistake, very tragic, sad mistake, but to actually accelerate the program. And I don't think I'm alone in having said that the fire really did make it possible to meet Kennedy's goal to land on the moon by the end of the decade of the 60s.
NASA never designated any flights Apollo 2 or 3. Apollo 4, 5, and 6 were unmanned missions to test the safety of the rockets. It took almost 2 years before another American crew went into orbit. Apollo 7 on October 11, 1968.
Thrust is okay. Engine thrust. Roger.
The space program was back, but a slow re-entry wasn't going to be enough to meet JFK's deadline and beat the Soviets. It would require a daring and dramatic change of plans. Coming up, NASA rolls the dice, betting everything on number 8.